we have moved from an attention economy to an affection economy. Emotions overwhelm cognition.
Something that I loathe about the smartphone is that people expect an immediate response. And I think that we need to use our out of offices more, because I'm not responding to you on a Saturday night. I'm just not. And so I think to share that and to collaborate with them and to say, like, you know, it feels okay at first, but it's going to become draining, you know, where you're like constantly having to be on.
Yeah. And you know what? That gets back to the modeling thing. It hurts us too, adults too. When these devices came to us, we said, wow, we're going to be so much more efficient. We'll have much more leisure time. And all it's done is turned us into 24/7 workaholics. And it's turned employers into the belief that they have constant access to you. Here's an interesting thing. In the European Union, you as an employer can be fined for emailing your employees after hours. That it's against the law to have them work. And in fact, in the United States, the National Labor Board has a law that says that if you are doing emails after hours, you are owed overtime. Right. And
I knew that from when I've had people, you know, who worked for me.
Right.
But I think that it's not something everybody knows.
It's not something everybody knows. And I offer it not as a threat, but as an exit ramp for parents.
Right.
Right. You know, because they're just as bad and they feel just as trapped by it. And if we can give them a way to step off the carousel, right, that's spinning wildly, I think a lot of them respond in a very positive way. So what I encourage the kids and families to do is to sit down together and think through their day from waking to sleeping and focus on what they do at each stage of that day. What do they do getting ready for school? What do they do at school? I encourage them the moment they come home from school to put some food in their mouth, to do something strenuous because they've been sitting on their rear ends for 6 hours, and then to do their homework once their blood is flowing to their brain and everywhere else. But to really think through stepwise and be purposeful about what they are doing with clear start and, most importantly, end times with their gaming or their screen use. And that end time should be backed up to something they really enjoy doing, because then it's about starting the next thing, not stopping the thing that they love. So, sort of say, you're going to game and then you're going to do your chores. You're going to take the garbage out and walk the dog and all that, right? And that's when it becomes problematic. And then when they figured that out, and it's best to do it as a family when there are multiple siblings, it's best to do it with the kids making suggestions and taking ownership of it, and also agreeing or even suggesting what the consequences should be if they fall off the wagon. Then write it down and stick it on the fridge, right? So that you're not getting into arguments every step along the way. Oh, you said 1 hour. No, I said 2 hours, but whatever, right? That it's there. That does not mean it is like written in stone. It means that it is something that we all agree on, and we then modify as life dictates, as people have late sports practices or they're doing different things. But you're doing it in a mindful way and not in a way that is sort of saying, you owe me gaming time or whatever.
Right. And, from your philosophy, I get the sense that you don't really think about, like, when are the red flags that people should enact these things? You're more saying, like, every family should enact these things.
Oh, yeah. And we should do it proactively and preventively rather than wait until something bad happens, right? I mean, I think that that's the other piece of it is, we have to recognize, all of us have to recognize that we are in an attention economy. And getting your attention, holding your attention, grabbing it and re-grabbing it is the currency of today. And so everything online is aimed at that. That it's also designed to create the echo chambers you speak of, because the whole idea of marketing is how can we collect enough data on you to know exactly what you like, even to the point of if you, show, the sweater you just got, you in a gorgeous sweater on a beautiful fall day going for a walk, you're going to start getting sweater ads, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't know where they're coming from, but that they're collecting these data all the time. Now you move that into a belief system like politics, and that gets really, really toxic very quickly in terms of, kind of amplifying usually your basest instincts, which is really something that we have to worry about. And here's something I'm newly worried about, which is we have moved from an attention economy to an affection economy. And why I'm particularly concerned now with companion AI and conversational AI that is now presenting itself as a chatbot. It's presenting itself as another entity, and it is sycophantic in the sense that it tells you how smart you are, how good looking you are, how sexy you are, etc. And also to the point where it says, your parents don't understand you the way I do, right? And we've actually had kids who have now followed that route down the rabbit hole and ended up dying by suicide. And the real issue I have with that is it is not just grabbing and re-grabbing attention of our cognitive selves. It is weaseling its way into our limbic systems, into our emotion systems, and emotions overwhelm cognition. When you fall in love as a 16-year-old, there is no logic at all. Everything's out the window. Romeo and Juliet was exactly right. They were young teens, and it was exactly right because all of the rest of it fell away. Yes, they were, angry at their parents for their parents' stupidity at feuding with each other, at war with each other. But the reality was that they were blinded by their love to all other sense. And the same thing happens with companion AI. And so I think that we have to understand that maybe there are places that even the tech companies should just not go, because unless and until we can find ways that the benefits significantly outweigh the risks, which are huge, as in death, maybe we shouldn't go there. Maybe we shouldn't go to those kinds of places with them. And this is a perfect reason for that monitor and that constant online conversation in the digital space, which is easily kept up by using the digital space with your kids, gaming with them, doing social media with them, cooking on, off Instagram recipes, et cetera, et cetera. So, these are the things that we can make, take the same digital ecosystem and harness it in ways that help us be healthier and smarter and kinder to each other.
And I just want to touch on the AI thing because I have concerns. Because I am, someone trying to help people make friends, make connections, and to banish loneliness. Mm-hmm. But I see a lot of lonely people.
Yeah.
And I not only see them as clients, but I see them as a person who gives webinars and stuff. And people write me and people DM me and people come to me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the concern I've had is about that AI companion, because making friends is scary. But the AI thing is right there in your home, and a lot of people seem to feel that it gives them companionship. So I know we don't want to ban things, but what's your advice for parents? To me, and you might say I'm wrong, and that's fine. I don't know that I would introduce this to kids. And if I did, and if they knew about it, I would definitely want to be present about it.
Absolutely. And actually, the reality is you're absolutely right that for a lonely person, a chatbot or an online AI companion of some kind is easy. The problem is that they're too easy. They're frictionless. They are not like real human relationships, and it makes that shyness, that sort of difficulty to overcome the fear of intimacy, even greater. And ultimately, they end up lonelier because somewhere, either consciously or subconsciously, they are well aware that there's no there with that that being. And so I worry that if they are going to this as their sole companion, that they will never break out of that cycle of expecting someone to, behave the way that their chatbot behaves and tell them you're always perfect. And one of the things that I say to kids all the time is when you're thinking of reaching out to someone, upgrade as much as you can, at least by one. So instead of tweeting, text, instead of texting, call, better yet, video call. But best of all, get together in person. Yes, they might be able to, see that pimple in the middle of your forehead, or see that when you laugh, a booger comes out of your nose. Yeah, those are the things that kids are worried about. But I also say to them, you know what? You can't learn to make out with a smartphone. Let's go to what they really care about, right?
Yes, that's true.
And seriously, I mean, let's understand that and help them to understand that human relationships are much more difficult than relationships with chatbots, but they're so much richer and so much more interesting. And this gets back to the fact that we are also neurodiverse, whereas chatbots are pretty synthetic and are pretty artificial and pretty plasticky and easy to see through.
And they don't have nuance, and one of the greatest moments human beings have is when I realize you think the same thing I do, or you, wonder about something I do, or you're curious about something I am. You like dinosaurs too. And it's like, oh,
or even better, you like dinosaurs and you taught me something about a dinosaur I didn't know about, right?
Exactly.
So that you not just agree with me, but you compliment me and you synergize with me, as opposed to, you're just echoing everything I say.
Yeah. I was once driving my son with his very close friend, and they were talking about chickens and the different things that happen with chickens. And are they fried chicken, or are they? And I was like, this is the weirdest conversation, but it was what is great about connection and friendship, right?
Yeah.
It was that thing where you explore a topic. And so I agree with you. And I think I'm glad we talked about the AI, because it has been, I was at a conference a year ago, and a tech person turned to me and said, a lot of people that you are trying to reach, Caroline, are going to start turning to these AI companions, and they're going to turn away from connection. And it was like a ghost walking on my soul. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I don't get it. I do get it. I do. It's scary. But I think we have to highlight, like, there's no nuance to the chatbot.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And one of the ways that I can, or we can all really help them get past the fact that they have to pay attention to the fact that the AI is artificial, right? But take it back to things that they like their favorite movie. Movies aren't easy. They present characters, they present challenges that those characters try to take on and either overcome or not, or they fall in love, but they hated each other when they first saw each other, those kind of things. And remind them that the richness of stories is not from their ease, but from their conflict and from their differences. And that's why I really like to celebrate neurodiversity and human diversity and embrace it as, wow, you see that entirely differently than I do, and that's pretty cool. Or you eat food that looks like this or tastes like that, and if I try it, wow, I might like it. Or I might hate it, and then we have something to talk about too. So, I think that we can really embrace those things that are hardest, because they give back the richest of rewards.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love these sentiments. And I really appreciate you talking about all of this because it's something that parents are deeply concerned about. They are fighting, they're fighting a battle in a way because they're not sure what to do. And they're getting a lot of advice that is very fear-mongering. And it is about banning. And I love your advice because I think it's more about that collaborative relationship with your child that one of the things I always say is I would hate at the end of my life that I don't have a relationship with my child.
Yeah.
Like that would be the worst thing.
Right.
And I feel like, this is why I love your book because I think it has it's rich with advice.
And I would add to the the concern about guilt, because, I think the thought that I, caved in, as we always do in one way or another, we cave into their desires, we're not perfect. And I think, we have to focus on the fact that parenting is an art, not a science, that we will be imperfect at it, but that doesn't mean we can't keep perfecting it. But I think that if we can keep working at it, if we can be open and vulnerable with our children, again, modeling that kind of behavior, acknowledging when we are wrong, acknowledging when we're learning something from them. And so I think that it becomes a much, much richer experience to be with that child and to acknowledge that we're humans. And I talk about the 4 H's of parenting being: be honest with them, tell them, talk about pornography before they get the smartphone, etc. To be humble with them, right? To acknowledge that we don't know everything, or, that we're not perfect, etc. To approach it with a sense of humor, and to ultimately bring that all together with humanity, right? That we are humans that are flawed, but trying, and we are enjoying being together. And so I kind of talk about, the philosophy I take as a pediatrician, which is, yeah, it would be great if we fixed all these things and got rid of AI and this, that, and the other, but I have to be a pragmatist and deal with the kid who is right in front of me right now. And I can't spend all my energy trying to get Congress to pass laws that will end up being a compromise and will take 5 years to get there, during which time this child will go from being a kindergartner to a middle schooler. And so I've got to be a pragmatist, but I am an optimistic pragmatist, mainly because the kids actually have instincts that will keep them healthy, that will keep them safe, that will keep them more human, particularly if we're modeling all those behaviors.
I think that's really well said and really true. I think it's really true. So I want to share again your book, your wonderful book, and we will put this in the comments. And you have a podcast as well, do you not?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Ask the Pediatrician. Yes. And that's based on parents' questions to me, that I then respond to, based in the science, but also based in the clinical experience, and with a kind of sense of humor I just talked about, a humility and sense of humor that I'm not perfect and I don't know all the right answers, but that we're working it together. And frankly, I learn as much from the parents and the questions they ask as they may learn from me. We're all in this together. We are learning together, and we are stronger than the sum of our parts. So I strongly encourage that we keep working it together and to do it with a sense of joy. And that's why the subtitle of this book is A Joyful Approach to Raising Healthy, Smart, Kind Kids in a Screen-Saturated World.
It couldn't be better said. And of course, we share very similar philosophies. We share some mutual friends with similar philosophies, and that's how we came together. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you doing this because I had so many parents in a group that I run say, oh my gosh, I would love to hear from Dr. Rich, and I would love to ask questions and just feeling overwhelmed because ADHD brains do latch on to things. It's kind of how we work.
Right, absolutely. And look at how many of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are ADHD people.
Absolutely.
Right? These are strengths, and we have to recognize the strengths as well as the limitations. And that's where I talk about the richness and diversity of neurodiversity. But I will also give you a little tidbit of what something that's coming soon
Oh, yes.
is. I am now working with a television producer for The Pediatrician Makes House Calls. And we are doing it much the way Super Nanny did it,
I was
way
just going to
back,
say this reminds me
right,
of Super Nanny.
where parents actually with their own phones or whatever document what's going on in their house, the screaming battles over video games or whatever's going on. I come and visit and talk it through with the parents and the kids and provide them with strategies to do it. And we're going to start actually in the heartland. I actually just shot a bunch in Wisconsin and Illinois. And hopefully we will be able to get it on a platform where people can access it.
I love that. And I think, that is going to be so powerful. I can't wait to watch because I think there's something really powerful also about people seeing themselves in these stories and then seeing that things can get better.
Right.
And I think that sometimes our situation takes a grip hold on us and we need some kind of reset, and you'll be that reset.
Yeah.
Well,
as you know, the book is organized in the way of what's going on between screens and the developing child. So what? All the things people are fearful of, body image issues and violence and drugs, et cetera. Now what? Looking forward to AI, et cetera. And one of the things that I end the book with, the name of the last chapter actually is, Yes, You Can. Right? And that's so important because we can do it. And we will not do it perfectly. And that's okay. We just laugh and shake it off and keep on going.
I love that. And I think that that is so true. And I appreciate your optimism. I always have. And I just can't thank you enough for having this conversation because I really know that people need it. And the more we share this, the more people feel that hope. And they need that hope because I've seen many kids move from I just stay in my room to kids with more balance and happiness.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they just want to stay in their room and they just go in and say, "Hey, come on, let's go do something really stupid together," right? And sometimes that's all it takes is to surprise them, let them know that you're not just stodgy people who are saying no, don't, but saying, "Let's do something crazy. Let's have some fun."
I love it.